Welcome to the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens, and we have Nick DiStefano back with us.
Hey, glad to be back, Rob.
Man, it's great to have you. You remember the first few times I said your name and I just butchered them completely?
That's about why. It's what it's like most of the time. Right. I tell people it's the Smith of Italy, except you just can't say it.
The Smith, oh, right, exactly.
There's lots of DiStefanos. So there's so many of us.
Yeah.
Haven't met them.
It's the equivalent of if you said, hey, Mr. Smith, and they're like, it's Smythe.
It's Smythe.
You know, like,
yeah, right?
Yeah,
cool.
So anyway.
You gotta be difficult.
Well, listen, Nick, we're not here, believe it or not, just to talk about your name.
Okay, fine.
I know it's disappointing.
Be great.
It would be great. But listen, man, it's a new year.
Yeah.
2026 is upon us, and you know, this is the time of resolutions.
Yes, sir.
This is the time of bettering yourself and doing all those things that you wanted to do in 2025,
Absolutely.
but fresh start. What do you got on your list for this year? What are you trying to do?
Man, so one of the things I've been trying to work on is writing more. I like to talk. I run my mouth for a living.
Yeah.
I've been trying to slow down and write more, write about journaling every day on things like feelings. I know it doesn't always fit into business, but we talk a lot about that sometimes.
Right.
No, that's one big thing. And then I've actually got a big race coming up. I'm running an ultramarathon in another 2 weeks. So that's not this resolution. I've worked on that a little bit last year. But,
okay.
It's what I got coming up.
An ultramarathon is longer than 26 miles or whatever a marathon is, right?
Yes.
So how long is this?
So this is actually a 24-hour race.
Oh my God.
So it's if our listeners are familiar with Market Common, and you know the loop around the lake, the one it's like a 1.1 mile loop. This is a group of about 150 people that have registered. We're all going to show up at 8 a.m. one morning, and we're going to run as many loops as we can in 24 hours.
In 24 hours. So you guys you get a whole group of crazy people.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of right. It's
like, what is going on?
A bunch of people who thought that sounds like an awful idea. Like let's do that together.
Hey, you know, I'm enjoying my life, and I think I want to ruin that now.
I think this is a good way to spend a Saturday, right?
Yeah, well, okay,
we'll see how many miles it is at the end. I don't have an answer as to what that is until the next time we record.
Well, I want to know. I definitely want to know now, and I'm going to tell you. I mean, ultimately, we do have a theme of the show today, so we'll dive into that. For those of you listening, and you're like, these guys are just yammering on, but listen, man, I'm interested in this.
Yeah.
24-hour race.
Yes.
Okay. What if you get 22, 23 hours into this thing and you pull a hammy and you got to step out? Do you get to say you did it?
So you can say you did it if you finish just one lap. So it's ultimately the winner is the person who does the most miles. And there'll be some folks that'll probably do 120, 130 miles in 24 hours. I will not be anywhere near that.
Okay.
But I would say even if I pulled a hammy, I will probably still just walk as much as I can past that.
Walk it if you have to.
Even my training, I will not be running for 24 hours straight. I am not that physically fit. I am not, Olympian who is running this and doing 150 miles or something crazy.
Just for verification, can you show the people at home your abs, and then we'll decide? No.
It's more like a keg.
It's not that kind of a show, but that's okay. Well, look, here's the thing you just told me. I'm super pumped about it. I could join this, and as long as I run one lap, I can say I ran an ultra marathon.
Absolutely.
I just go around telling everybody, I'm running ultra marathons left and right. I did like 1 mile.
I'm an ultra marathoner.
Yeah. People are like, wow, I thought you hated running. Oh, I do. No. Well, hey, listen, man, keep us posted. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Man,
how about yourself? What are your resolutions?
So my big things are, I'm normally a pretty disciplined guy. I'm a guy who lives by discipline, right? But my goals for this year were pretty good. We're as you know, I own Carolina Bays Real Estate and Construction, aka Carolina Bays Homes, and this year we're really scaling up on the sunrooms. And when we talk about scalability, this is a leadership show.
Sure.
How do you scale? Well, you have to have systems that you can teach to people, and I'd say relatively easily is really nice to know. And you have to be consistent. And so we've spent a lot of last year, really building the consistency up. We're going to do this like this, and then this person's going to do this, and this person's going to do this. So this year we're really trying to build that up. So we spend a little bit more money on advertising for that. And big year ahead. I don't want to quite tell you what my number is, but I'm expecting somewhere around to grow by double at least.
But what I hear is that there is a goal, and I think that's 100%. Right? So I have a goal within my 24-hour race of what I'm going to try and get to, and without that goal of something to aim towards to get to, it can often be just you kind of can get
You're
lost
listless.
in it. You can very easily go, because you're not going to see the progress. Like, you're not going to double it tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
it's going to take some time of like, how do I, get curious about what I can change, or how do I kind of figure out what is working well and what do I maybe need to learn, and so it's cool, but you have to have the goal to get there.
You got to have a target. They talk about a lot of how do you build motivation. Yeah. Motivation starts with the little dopamine releases you get when you accomplish things. So we usually know when you're talking to somebody who's kind of down in the dumps, and you say things like, well, look, set yourself a goal and set one that you can attain. Don't do something crazy, but hey, I'm going to walk a mile today, and after work, and that's fine. When you do that and you accomplish, you get a little dopamine release. It makes you feel good, and now you're starting the trend. So in this way, I think, Nick, the big thing is, like most people, I've set a goal. When you're trying to get somewhere, I've set a goal, and you have to have little incremental measures in between to make sure you're on track for that. And at the end of the day, look, it gives you something to be proud of. So that's where we're at. Carolina Days growing away, man.
I love it.
Well, listen, let's jump into what we're here today to talk about, and maybe it even ties in with a little bit about goal setting and resolutions. So we have a topic of the show today called "How Leaders Stay Curious and Keep Learning." Now thinking about this, so in my brand of leadership, and anybody who's listened to the show, I have an acronym for this, and I say the L in leader is learning continuously. This is a tie into this. I believe that great leadership, you can't say, well, I know everything I need to know, and then you just stop, or you reject every bit of information somebody can give you. But I think the better question is not that learning's important. We're just going right past that.
Sure.
We're saying how to stay curious and keep learning. So what the heck do you say about that?
So I love the words in this topic of stay.
Stay.
Right?
Curious.
So I have a new dog at home. She's 8 months old. She's a black lab, and she is wide open. And we're working on right now stay, right? And it's this idea of like, you're going to sit in one spot. And so for me, when I think about staying curious, it is okay while you're still moving forward to still stay in that curiosity, that moment of wonder, of uncertainty. And we as leaders oftentimes are like, I got to get past the uncertainty. Let me just go do this other thing because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure. I feel lost. And we go, I know how to do this thing, so let me go do this instead of sitting a second and going, what is this teaching me? Why am I struggling with this? Or, who else could I talk to about this to help me with it?
Right.
And those are all curious questions, but if you don't stay and sit, you move right past the question opportunity.
I'm going to, and I love that, and I don't want to get you too far off your topic.
Oh, you're good.
But here's the thing about that. When you're in a leadership position, or I always say leadership is a trait, not a title. But however, when you're in what you perceive to be a leadership position, people are looking at you. It's sometimes you want to have all the answers. You want to be able to say, hey, I know what I'm doing. You want to feel confident. And so this is one of those things where you're saying, well, yeah, but you got to stay curious. And I feel like a lot of leaders are going to struggle with that, because exactly what you just said happens. They say, well, I want to prove to everybody I know what's going on. But when you're being curious, that means you're looking at things you may not know the answer to right off the bat.
Absolutely.
And it's a good thing.
100%. No, I think it's a great thing.
Absolutely.
I think when we stray away from it and we get uncomfortable with the uncertainty or the vulnerability or the I don't have all the answers, we lose the opportunity to be curious. And I think also I think curiosity builds connection. I think if I'm curious about what I don't know about a person, about a process, about a new client, it's how I learn about you. It's how I connect with you. And when I ask a better question, or I ask something that gets you to talk about, your passion, then I'm learning about you. And that is what I think many leaders don't like to do. We like to, like you said, know what's happening. And, I know that these are my type of customers. Well, then I have this one customer that shows up and they do something that is completely in left field. And I think, I don't want to work with this person. They're a difficult customer versus like, wait, what could I learn from them? Or what are they going to bring to our business? What are they going to teach us? What are they going to, provide us instead of me going, I don't really want to work with this person.
Yeah. I think that's a powerful thing. You listen to Jocko a little bit? Jocko?
Absolutely.
I was listening to a video of his the other day. In fact, I played it for my team, and he was talking about the fact that he tells a story of when he was in the military, and he said he's like the lowest ranking guy in the group, I think, and he said all the people are looking through their scopes on their rifles or wherever they had. That's not the important part of the story, but he said they're kind of looking, and he said he took the moment to look left and look right, and he could see the whole field in front of him. Curiosity there. And he said everybody else is looking through the sniper, through the scope. And he said, so what happened is you're so stuck on what your directive is that you never took the curiosity to say what's going on. He said he called another command, which actually got them where they needed to be. So very powerful stories.
Yeah.
Can I jump in with another thing? You said the thing about you training your dog.
Yes.
I have always look. I mean, and some are easier than others. That's why I love talking about raising a pet to training employees, and I mean this because I always tell people when you're training a dog, the most beautiful gift you can get is when that dog pees on the floor when you see it. If you do not see it, you're reinforcing a bad habit. They think, I can pee anywhere. But when you see it, you should rejoice in it. You're mad. Hey, no. But you rejoice because you're like, I got a chance to teach them what they should have done. And so I think a lot of times it's such a beautiful opportunity. And just with a little bit of training, within a week, usually they know, okay, I learned what I'm supposed to do.
But you're spot on because it's the same thing with curiosity, training employees, a dog. The one thing that I think is key in all of it is like you're setting an expectation, right? To go back to your goal, you're trying to create some standard operating procedures, trying to create some processes. It's not going to happen without individuals being curious about what the expectations are, about the process. If you just say, this is what we're doing and this is how we do it, and like a dog might get that, and an employee might understand that, but it's still, there's like a level of curiosity. Dogs are curious. They want to see what's going on. They want to explore things, but like they still know somewhat of a boundary. So like when I say come and she's on the other side of the yard, I want her to come to me, but I still am going to give her the freedom to kind of go out there and see what's happening.
Sure.
And I think same thing with our employees. Otherwise we just say like, do this thing, end of story, and like, you never let them off the leash. You never let them explore. You never let them learn and grow.
It's powerful.
It's
such a powerful thing.
I'm not saying our employees are dogs, but like the reality is like we all have to give people some of that freedom to learn and grow and create a culture of curiosity.
Quite to the contrary. You see, we're definitely not saying they're dogs. What we're saying is we can expect more from a human than a dog
100%.
By a long way.
100%.
And so here's the thing what we're getting to. If you can train a dog with limited understanding of the world that you don't go here, you go there, then you can certainly train an employee with consistency on the right thing to do. But we have to be consistent. So if one day I'm telling the dog, well, just pee on the pad, I don't care. And then on another day I'm like, no, you got to go outside. And another day I'm like, no.
What do I do?
Yeah, right. So the dog doesn't know. And I think employees are the same way, at least in give them some consistency and let them be curious. I like that you said that.
Yeah,
I think since we're talking about tips and we're talking about how do leaders do this, how do you stay curious? I think you said something there a minute ago that kind of came to my mind, which is as part of your standard operating procedure, you should have something in there that allows you to be curious.
Yes.
For example,
100%.
Part of our standard operating procedure. Remember, if you go back to college, they had strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a SWOT analysis.
100%.
So if you're sitting there and you're a leader and you haven't done a SWOT analysis for your business in a while, it's time to do it. Go write it up on a board. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And you look where you're at on each of those. This is a way to stay curious. Because when you're 100%. Curious, you go, well, now what is the opportunity? And you're forcing yourself into it. Make it part of your standard operating procedure. I like that.
100%. Yeah. That could be something I think you can almost schedule opportunities to be curious.
Oh, yeah.
You can do a SWOT on a quarterly basis or, an opportunity to do it, I don't know, let's say twice a year, whatever works for your business and your schedule. But I also think there are opportunities for us to be curious more regularly than oftentimes leaders recognize. So for example, we close a big deal, or in my world, we host an event where we're talking about leadership and development with people. We always, every time after we're doing it or complete it, we always do some type of an evaluation afterwards. That's curiosity. But if I just look at the information that I'm getting from it and I go, okay, cool, that's nice, like we did great, but I don't ask, well, I wonder what's the reason they said this thing, or how could we have fixed this piece of the event, or how could I have made this part of the process faster? So that is curiosity, but oftentimes we ask the questions of our clients, of our customers, for me, of the employees that we're providing, professional development for, and then we get all the information and we don't do anything with it. Like, don't ask the question and be curious if we're not going to do something with it. So schedule those times to actually talk about it.
It goes back to the age-old thing. If you're like, you had a great time, right? Yeah. You had a great time. Like, what are you learning from that?
Yeah, exactly.
In essence, I've heard a lot of people who are doing these surveys and they say, you rate it like this so you can get this response. I'm going, well, what good was this survey? Why are we doing it?
It's like if you've ever been somewhere and they say, please rate us a 9 or a 10 on this thing. You're not curious at that point. Right. You're doing this because someone above you is telling you that you need to score a certain thing and it looks good. And you're not actually, at that point, you're not learning. If you're not curious, you become complacent.
Yeah.
You just continue to do the same thing and you're like, oh, this is working. It's great. And then, 6 months later, you're still doing the same amount of business you were doing before.
So herein is a tip in itself, I believe. I think it's like, as a leader, don't create things where you're rewarded for just doing the process. Reward people for maybe innovativeness in some cases. And because if I tell you, hey, look, your performance is going to be tied to how happy you are with whatever I'm doing right now, I'm encouraging them not to be curious. I'm actually encouraging the opposite. I'm saying, you stay in a box. So let's reward innovation. Yeah. And that's very cool.
So, let them cook.
But anyway, back on, Lauren.
So you said, reward them. And I think one of the pieces of curiosity is we should reward people for being curious. Mm-hmm. We should reward people for learning. Oftentimes we reward as leaders, we reward results. The result is an outcome, right? Mm-hmm. I shouldn't reward you because you achieved this. I want you to know that, you matter as my employee and as the person that I work with. And not that you matter because you got this done, but you matter because you got it done because of your strengths and your talents and what makes you who you are. And so if you're curious enough to ask the question of the client that lands us another deal, or that, causes us to, grow X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, if you embrace the curiosity, if you embrace the learning and you have then succeeded because of it, I'm going to reward not just the success, but the curiosity. I want to say, you know what, Rob, I really appreciate that you were curious in this specific instance. And that's the reason why we succeeded. Not just that we succeeded, great job on, landing this client, but great job on being curious and learning about this technique that led us to that.
Yeah. I feel like, as I go through life, I try to be a balanced individual. And I feel like that one thing as we're talking today is we're trying to give some tips for, again, to go back to stay curious and keep learning for you and your staff. And so we're talking about this technique, and I feel like that the opposite of it is to be like too curious all the time. Yes. And so there's it's a powerful thing, right? So I would like the listener today who's listening and they're going, okay, curiosity's good, check, let's go be curious like 24/7. Well, somewhere between curious all the time and curious none of the time is right where you want to be.
Absolutely.
Standard operating procedures, not so much curiosity other than maybe, why are we doing what we're doing? I think why is a great question, but it doesn't mean you're like, maybe we should be doing something else. No, we're not saying that all the time, but I think it's a healthy thing, and install it. And so we've had 2 tips so far.
Yes.
Pure tips. Yes. Reward curiosity. Yep. Have a skill of how you're going to do it. Schedule curiosity. Yes. Schedule things. And I have one that works for me. Yeah. And everybody's not a reader, but nobody has an excuse not to listen to an audiobook. I like to read, but when I read, I like to read things that are a little outside of the box. I don't just want to read like sales tip books all the time. But I heard a guy say to me one time, I thought it was pretty smart. He said, I'm reading a hostage negotiation book. And he said it was from an expert hostage negotiator. I wish I remembered the name of the book.
Was it Chris Voss? Because that's a fantastic book.
Might have been.
Never Split the Difference.
Okay, it might have well been.
Hostage negotiation.
And he said, like when you're trying to convince somebody of something, that, against all odds, there's techniques. And I think it's that kind of thing where when I talk about the curiosity factor, it's like, well, I could just sit here and do the same thing I do all the time, but why don't I read something that's a little outside the books? I got one from that one time. It was called Presidential Courage. And I've talked about this on previous shows, not with us, but Presidential Courage. When I talk about being curious, I looked at what presidents had done, going back to some of the most famous presidents you've ever seen, Washington, Lincoln. And it talks about the challenges they had and the resilience they had to overcome them, and how we review them after the fact, how we look at them 100 years later.
Absolutely.
And it's a powerful thing. So when I say be curious, read new things, get outside of your little box that you think you should be doing, and go into things that you can learn more, like, things to make you a more complete person.
100%. Yeah. But what I hear and what you're saying too, though, is you're not just reading it and learning it. I think a key piece of it is you are finding ways to apply it.
Yes.
It's learn it and do something with it. Because you can, again, be someone who is learning and collecting information and listening to podcasts and reading all the books, and you have all this information, and then
you never apply
it. Are you doing anything with it? And
I think it's a problem.
I think the application is where the curiosity piece really is truly at its, creates the most impact. You think about it, if you are curious about what you've learned, you're going to try and do something with it, and you're going to then figure out, did this work for me, for our team? Maybe this idea that I just learned about this president sounds great, and this is what we need, and I'm going to do this thing. But if you don't ever do anything with it, you don't know if it works for your people. I mean, it's no different than anyone listening to us right now. I mean, go and try it. But I would also say, if you're curious and you try it, you don't try something one time and go, oh, okay, that didn't work, and then move on. Like at that point, you're not actually learning from it. You're just saying, that didn't work, it's not for me, and we move forward. We have to try things multiple times if we're going to learn and be curious. And so I think it's a fantastic tip, Rob.
While you were talking about that, I had a chance, and I agree with everything you said, but I had a chance to look at our upcoming show. Our upcoming show is resilience, striving through
that's
challenges.
My favorite topic of all time.
And I guess I think the point of, when you said what you were saying, I was thinking, well, we got to talk about resilience, because curiosity, you can't just be curiosity without resilience.
100%.
Because if you do, you'll just like, hey, that's interesting, and move on. That's interesting, and move on. You got to kind of try it and move. So as we get into next week's show, we'll get into a little bit more about the resilience piece of it. But I think it's a good time for us to kind of review. So we talked about the RSR program. I'm probably trying to make something.
I don't know that we have an acronym for it.
It's called the Read, Schedule, and Reward program. Yeah, we're trying to build curiosity, but in all seriousness, look at the great presidents, look at the great CEOs. Yeah. Somebody at some point, might have been Steve Jobs, I don't know who really invents stuff, but said, you know what if I could listen to my music digitally, and what if it was part of my phone? And there's a curiosity that makes great invention, and it inspires people. So I think this is a very powerful lesson. Did we miss anything that you were hoping to?
I truly think that curiosity is a underutilized skill.
Yeah.
It's very easy as leaders for us to think, oh well, my kids are curious. I don't need. It's something that we don't think about regularly. And kids are super curious. Like my 8-year-old asks me like 25 questions before we even get out of the car, and it's only a 2-minute ride to school. And so it's like, but he wants to know. He has this desire, this like innate hunger for more information, and it can be like the most random question. I'll never forget the day he asked me a question that really made me think about what work is like. I remember driving home from school one day, and he said to me, "Daddy, who's your best friend at work?" And I was like, what? Like, where is that coming from? But it made me think about like, what is it like when we work somewhere? And I kind of got curious about when we have someone that I can say, like, I really enjoy working with this person.
Do you want to do a shout out to your best friend at work right now?
Sure.
Everybody else writes you up.
Everyone else is like, screw you, Nick. It's Christina Jackson from. No,
oh yeah. Who is my?
I'm joking.
Christina's great.
I'm saying
sure.
I love you, Christina. You're fantastic. I'm saying that because he's on the board. She works for the foundation. So
shout out
to the McLeod Foundation.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, that's funny, man.
But no, really, like it's a question that like he was just genuinely being curious. And I think about if we just asked better questions or more questions regularly, we'd be better leaders.
The world beats it out of you. When you're growing up, the world beats it out of you. What I mean is we are pods of information just trying to collect as we're younger, and I'll elaborate on that. And when you're in a leadership role and somebody says, why? Like, why are we doing that? You know, you have the option of just shutting that down right there.
Because
you go do it. But when you can say, look, this is the answer, and, you know, let's not beat people down. Let's give them a chance to really understand better things, because I don't know about you, but when I understand something, I get more creative.
Yes.
You give me something, and I'm going to really build out of it. I'll say I read a book once, and it was talking about learning with the 5 senses. And it talked about the fact that, you know, when you look at a baby really learns through putting things in their mouth. You taste, you hear, you smell, you listen, you see. And it's something that as we get to being adults, we tend to just learn like visually and maybe audibly, or some combination of those, depending on how your brain works. And I'm going, well, why don't we? Why don't we feel things? Why don't we test things? Why don't we? Well, we grow out of it. We think we're past that. So the next time you're at the office and you got the stapler in your mouth, you heard Rob Clemens told you. Anyway,
that, you get my friends, is leadership. Put the stapler in your mouth.
All right. Oh, now I understand this thing.
It makes sense.
Yeah, right. Now it clasps
Then
things.
they'll be in our emergency room.
Right, exactly. So bad tips with Rob Clemens. Anyway, well, Nick, let's call it a show for today.
Sure.
I love this. It's a great topic. Stay curious, keep learning. Yes. We do want to thank all of our sponsors, Caroline-based Real Estate and Construction, Caroline-based Homes. We also want to thank McLeod Health Foundation, and just such a great program out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. And obviously, Nick, as always, thanks for being on the show today.
It's a pleasure.
We'll have you back on the next one, and we'll see you all next time on the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens and
Nick DiStefano.
You got it. All right, see you next time.